welcome everyone to the lecture tonight, and we're going to talk about endgames and many different topics. We're not going to just focus on one particular endgame positions. So we're going to start out by doing some endgame fortresses, which is a very important thing for you to know. What is a fortress? Anybody familiar with the fortress, and maybe can explain what is a fortress actually? A fortress is where basically you have material advantage, but you can't really you have a material advantage, but your opponent somehow you cannot break through. So like in this position, black, this is a position where it cannot be won. So black is a fortress here, even though he's down a knight and a pawn, but white cannot really make progress. So positions like that where the one player is way behind on material, but somehow he can manage to hold the position, that's a fortress, endgame fortress position. So here is we have one example here. If you look at the position, it seems like white should be winning this clearly because he's got an extra knight and a pawn on a 7th rank, and it's not even he has a wrong color bishop. We're going to talk about the wrong color bishop also today, but like if we had a dark square bishop here instead of a knight, that would have been a wrong color bishop endgame. But here, the problem here for white is he can't really move this knight anywhere without dropping this a7 pawn. And if you drop the a7 pawn, you're not going to win the game. So you can't really win it with anything. So, and the problem is that every time you try to get closer, it's a stalemate. So imagine in a position like this, if you're trying to win this position, this is still fine, but you're white and you just make one careless move, one careless move in a completely winning position, and guess what? You're not winning this game because it's going to be a fortress, a position where you cannot break. So that's why in this position, you don't want to play a7. In this position, the winning plan is king to b6, and now his king will go to b8, and you push the pawn. And he comes here, you checkmate with a knight. Okay? So be very careful when you have a position like this, when you have a corner pawn. The fortresses can happen in this kind of positions with a knight and a pawn. Each player has kings, only if you have a corner pawn, okay? The side pawn, like a or h pawn. So be very careful and don't just start just pushing the pawn. In a position like this, it also would be careless in a position like this, for example. You reach a position like this, and so let's say you are in a position like this, and you're just thinking about pushing the pawn. For now, it's okay, you push, but you don't want to just continuously push here. Here, you make one mistake, it's going to be a draw here. You push the pawn, he attacks your pawn now. You cannot really properly protect it. Knight c7, I just take it, so push, he goes here. Same exact position. You cannot win this position anymore, because if you bring the king, he just goes to the corner. You bring your king, he just comes back. You come up, he goes there. This squares you can never go to. This squares you go to is just going to be a stalemate. So you can't really do anything. So that's the problem here. Okay? And if king's b6, king goes, it's stalemate. So be very careful when you have a knight and an extra pawn, a corner pawn. Be very accurate when you're advancing the pawn, because if you make a mistake, there is a way for your opponent to get a fortress position like this, where you cannot really break through. Okay? So fortress 1. Next position. Is it clear for everybody how we win this position? You win this by bringing your king and accurately pushing the pawn, okay? Before you push the pawn on a 7th rank, make sure your king is already on b6. One more time demonstration, okay? For you to get more confidence when you do these positions. So you push the pawn, he goes back, you just go here. You get your king. Don't push the pawn too much, yeah? And you just wait. He goes back, your king comes to the 6th rank. Remember, king's on the 6th, okay? And here again, this would be a draw. So you bring your knight closer, because you want to make sure when you play a7 check, the next idea, it's a mate. Okay, like check and check. See, if you had pushed this pawn, again, careless move, draw. because now it's stalemate position. If you move away with the king, he takes your pawn, and your knight is not in the ability to just go here and checkmate. So that's why you have to be very careful, okay, converting this kind of endgames. Next position I have is this position. So here, another position that feels like, you know, we have the right color bishop because the queening square is the color of the bishop, so this is the right color. But surprisingly, a position like this is also a fortress here. There is no way for white to win this because, again, same the case, you know, the pawn is too advanced, and that square cannot be used for the king to go to. So for example, we try to get closer. Of course, you can win this game if your opponent is playing a bad move, like here. He would come here and checkmate. But if he goes king c8, unfortunately, you don't have a way of making progress here, because you go check. If he goes away, you go king b7. So he goes here. You try to close the king and try to box him into checkmate, but the problem is if he goes here, you can't go here and here. The king is boxed in. And if you go check, he just comes back. So there's no way for you. In order for you to win this position, you need to win the pawn. But since you cannot win the pawn here, you can't really win. So memorize this endgame, because, you know, there will be some chances for you will get this position. So you know that if you're black, this is a draw. If you're white, you have to be careful. Don't get a pawn on a6. So I'm going to push this, change the position a little bit, and push the pawn on a6 here. This is an easily won position here. How? What is the big difference that you notice here with the pawn on a5 and the pawn on a6? See, one square changes the character of the whole position. What's the idea? King to a6. Now, see, we have the squares. These squares cannot be used, so it has to move away. You pick it up. You push. Now you can use this idea, for example. If you want to push opponent king away from your king, it's a good idea to remember. You put the bishop between your king and his king. It could be used in a different endgame positions also. If you want his king to go away further, so you put your bishop between, you know, your king and his king, and then if the king moves away, then you simply go here, a7, a8, queen. Okay, so easily winning position if the pawn is on a5, but if it's already on a6, so you play this move, and there is really no way for you to make progress here. You can only win this position if your opponent plays a huge blunder, king goes to the corner, then you can mate him. Other than that, there is no way for you to really force the matters here. So like you go here, he goes here. You go here, he goes to the corner. You can't really force him to do anything. Okay? See, we intend to usually advance our pawns, and, you know, gaining space, and with the hope that one day we will win the pawn on b7. But we also have to be careful sometimes, because later on in the endgame, like in this example, you reach this position, and you can't really break through here as well, because you don't have a way to access the pawn on b7 here. So here, let's try to win this. So we try to go king e6, he goes here. If king f7, you go king d7. If king goes to c8, he goes king e7. Now you go here. Okay, here. I go here. See, we can't really come even here. That's stalemate already.
Can't you move your bishop to this to e7? Yeah, so
Bishop e7? Yeah, we can. Well, now if he plays the wrong move, then you win. If he goes to e8, you win, because you just go here. And then you just come here, pick up the pawn. But the problem is, he's going to stay with his pawn.
and if you move your king, can you push him out of the corner?
You can you can get really close, but every time you do this or this, my king is simply going to be locked in a corner, and it's just not going to work. So that's why it's a problem. Okay. So this is another example where the pawn is on a 6th rank, and there is no way really to get closer here to the pawn on b7 to win this game. Okay, next position. What do you think of the following position? Okay, do you think this could be a fortress, or white can eventually break through here and win? You think white can break through, or this is still going to be a draw? But if you say you're going to win this, you need to come up with a plan. So we need a plan here so we can see. Need a plan. And I'm not saying there is a winning plan here. I'm just trying to see. You have this position, I mean, and you're going to feel like I've got to win this somehow. I must have a plan here.
All right, move the other way. Put the king behind the pawn.
And what's the plan? Let's say we move the king.
The check the black king after you make the second move.
Yeah, it's an idea. It's an idea, but I'm not sure if that does anything. Like oh, here.
Right. All right, check.
King h7. I'm happy with the draw, so I'm happy with the draw here. So we need a plan. Do you have a win?
I think so.
Okay, let's see your win.
Queen h3
Okay.
with the plan of just pushing that pawn.
Okay, let me block that then.
Oh, it blocks it then.
There is no way to wait with the queen move in order to have the black king move first, right?
So we need a way to break through here, yeah? So he's just going to go here, 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 basically. He's just going to back and forth here. I know it feels like there should be a way, you know, but how to do it?
Well, what if we just play queen to h4 in this position? Make a move off h6. Then we'll check. All right. Now we'll attack the pawn.
Okay, how?
Let's play.
This is one of the most incredible fortresses you can probably see, because it just, the material imbalance is huge. I mean, rook versus queen, it's not even a pawn. If this pawn wasn't here, this is an easy draw without the h pawn, but with the h pawn it's, yes, Mike?
How about queen f4?
Okay, king g7. And keep in mind, you must keep the pawn on f6. You push this pawn on f6, forget it, you lose instantly. Like you play check, you lose immediately, king g4. Now he's going to go here, and your king, as soon as your king appears on the back rank here like this, with 7th rank weak, you're going to lose the game. For example, check, guess what? Zugzwang. Everybody know what is Zugzwang? Well, you don't have any good moves to make, basically. So here, your king cannot move, your pawn moves, I come up, you go back here, I checkmate you. That pawn must remain. If you ever want to do a fortress with a rook and a pawn versus a queen, your pawn, remember, your pawn must be on its original square. It's very important to remember that, because otherwise you can't do much. So I go here. It's a feeling is that there must be a way to win this. At least that's the feeling. But the question is, can we find anything concrete? or this is a draw after all.
Try queen f5, I guess.
Why not? Sorry. Why not take? Why not take the pawns with you?
This is always a draw, remember?
Okay, so
Because you can never queen this pawn. You can never queen this pawn. The side pawn you can never, even if you have few of them, you can never queen. So
Queen d4.
queen d4, king h7,
And d4. Queen
king here.
d4. And then e5.
I'm not sure if I want to draw now. Victory!
Campaign for everybody.
Well,
You said that pawn had to stay on F7.
yes, but not in the case where I can fork him, you know? Look, whatever I say, remember that, but sometimes keep your options, you know? There will sometimes be cases, of course, yeah. In fact, even if I don't have f6, I will just go king 8. I have f6, but I go, you were trying to get closer, yeah? But you can get closer like this if you want. So absolutely incredible endgame, yeah? With the extra queen, you are yeah. Mike, any other ideas? You were suggesting something, but basically I'm just going back and forth. That's what I'm trying to do. But I have to make sure I don't let you to push this pawn h6. That's what I have to make sure. I have to make sure you don't get there, okay? Because if you get there, you're going to win. So I have to do it accurately. Like
How about queen to e7?
queen to e7, rook back. Now if I just take back. So if h6, I just go back. It doesn't have a name, but it's just one of the most amazing fortresses in chess because it's the imbalance is huge. I mean, without the h pawn, it's a common draw. So this is a draw, everybody. There's no way to win this position. Strangely enough, there is no way to, it's interesting. If you analyze this with a computer, right? If we plug in a computer here, engine, it will probably say white is winning, but after, he's basically going to go back and forth, move the queen around and without making much progress. If in this position, let's say this pawn is not there, okay? Like this position, just keep that in mind. This is an easy draw, okay? Here you don't have to do anything basically. You just simply go back and forth, okay? And he can't really make progress here because your pawn is on the original square. The reason you have to keep it on the original square because he doesn't have extra rank to get behind your pawn. If you push this pawn on f6, so this is a draw because you just, like I say, you just go here back and forth. He can't do anything. But let's say there's no way to, his king cannot cross. That's what I'm saying. He can never cross the 6th rank. And if he cannot cross, he cannot apply more pressure on this. So that's why he can't do anything. Now, what I wanted to show you is, remember I talk about this pawn being here so much. So I want to kind of share with you why that's so important, okay? So you'll have an idea. Okay, so now we have a position that looks very much like the other fortress position, but the only thing is the pawn on f6 instead of f7. Who can tell me the difference here? Why this is winning and the previous position is drawn?
the queen can come around now.
What's the difference that you see here? Queen can go back to check.
When the king hides behind the pawn, the queen can go to the very back rank to check it.
Excellent, yes. So queen goes here, check. When he goes here, you actually have the possibility of get behind it. In the other example, there are no more squares on the board. You can't really get behind it. So he will try to give a couple of annoying checks, but you just play it accurately. and he runs out of checks. Now, it's getting more tricky now, because the way we're going to win this, we're going to have to force his king to go away from the pawn. First, we're going to win the pawn, and then I'm going to teach you how to win that position. But first, let's win the pawn here. So let's say he sits here. Check. Now he goes here. If he goes away, we go queen s7. Now you go here. Now he's tied up to this weakness. What to do? You have to be very careful. If you move your rook away from the king, there are chances of check and taking your rook. So you can't really afford to move the rook anywhere you like. So for example, he sits. He does something like this. Right. Queen d5. And then you want to go queen f5, check now. So it goes rook g5. Now you can go check. Check from here. Yeah, we can check from there too. He's going to play f5, but now he goes here. Guess what? Now his king is in a mating net. So he can't really do too much. And if he had gone here, now we win the pawn. Check. Check. And we pick it up. Now, how do we win this position? The question is. Because he can go here. It looks like we're so close, so close to the victory, but still we have to win this. It's actually not easy to win these positions if you don't know the exact idea that you're looking for here. Because you can play king f4 and it feels like the victory is near. He goes check. And you come up here in expectation that you're going to mate now next move here, no matter what. Do you see the drawing move? Absolutely, rook f4. And guess what? Still mate again. Be very careful. I've seen so many people, like even at the practice games and tournaments, they just quickly play, because keep in mind, likely you're not going to have too much time left on a clock when you reach the position like this, because this is going to be like move 60 or something. So you have to, know the idea how to win. Okay. So basically, what you need to do in this position. So if you go here, he's just going to continuously check you. So you don't necessarily want to do that. Here you can just play queen e7. You want to move the king further away a little bit, so no more stalemate ideas. Now if he goes king g6, you get closer. Check. Go here. Now you go check. Now you're getting closer. Now you go check. Now if he goes back, you just go here. This is easily won, so he goes here. Now, you need to remember the idea that is called waiting move. In a position, this is one of the critical positions you're going to get. So you need to remember the waiting move idea here. So here, all you need to do is pass the turn to your opponent. So you need to make a move that doesn't really changes the concept of the position too much. Which move is that? That it just keeps things the way they are, yes? Huh? Queen a1 is good, but let's keep it in the center, yeah? Same idea, but keep it in the center. You must control that diagonal, okay? That's very important for you to do that. So this is the move, queen d4. Now, if king goes back here, again, you walk up, okay? So he goes check. Now he goes here. And he goes king h8. It's amazing, this position has occurred before. There were a couple of incidents where very strong, world-class grandmasters, top 10, top 15 players in the world, reached this position, they couldn't win. Because they just never studied the idea. And it happened twice, at least, 2 super grandmasters couldn't win this position. So in order to win these positions, you have to know the concept here. Which position you're aiming for. you're gonna get a position where he's in Zugzwang, basically. Any thoughts which position we're aiming for? It's quite amazing that you have your queen on a certain
E5.
square. Huh?
Queen E5.
Okay. You need to have a plan. You can't just make moves.
Pin the rook when he's in the back.
Well, the problem is the king is on the way, so. Okay, yeah?
Well, I was thinking in last move before, had the queen been on A1, you could have just, never mind.
We cannot win the rook here. So we're not aiming for winning the rook here at the moment. You're going to win this different way here. Yes?
No,
Mm-hmm.
so queen e4, the king needs to move, and then queen e8 afterwards.
But if you go queen E5 and then queen E8, yeah.
Okay, check. And what's the winning line? Because remember, you go here, I go check. You go here,
Yeah, so now you pin the rook.
same idea.
If you go back and you have a waiting move.
Well, it's
so
check.
you can check.
Oh, you want to, yeah, you can't.
Right here, I thought a waiting move, but well, now go queen there. Now if you do a waiting move where he's got to go, so now if you play
You're getting closer now.
Yeah.
You're getting closer now.
King f5.
F8 and he's
Actually, but no, you don't want to move the king. Your king is an ideal spot here.
queen F8 forces him.
Yeah, but then he checks you.
uh,
No, actually, you're very close. Basically, you want to reach that same position you had, but reach that way so it's blocked to move. Okay? So the concept is the following. You give a check from this place, and then you go here. This is the winning position, remember. This is a winning position, or this is a winning position. Check, check, or this is a winning position. Okay, so you have to memorize two positions. King on f6, queen on h5, rook on g7, king on g8. This is a winning position. Or, same position for the kings, white queen should be on e8, and the black king on h7. This is a position where now black is in Zugzwang. Basically, he needs to make a move, and he will lose his rook here. No matter what he does, he's going to lose his rook here, basically. Let's look at the alternatives. He goes here, game is over. So he has to move the rook. This is the case where I mentioned to you, if the rook goes further away, we check, 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 you're going to win this. So as soon as he moves here now, you need to realize from which two squares you can possibly check and win the rook. Identify those two squares.
G1 and D8. Where he can get to them.
Excellent job. So this is the concept. So from here, you can check and win the rook. Okay? So now let's achieve that. The way we achieve this is we give a check from the central square first. Check. Because he cannot go, you always have to make sure he cannot go to the back rank. You have a mate. So he has to go here. Now, give two checks and win the rook. 1, 2. And the rook is gone. Yes?
h1.
Queen h1 check. Has to go back here. You connect. And the game is over. Okay? So, now, let's look at the other possibility. If he goes, so you understand this one, right? Rook goes on a7 check. He goes here check. And you connect. If he goes here, if he goes here now let's identify the two other squares we're going to win the rook from. First you identify it, then you can just find a way to get there. Which two squares you're going to you can check and win the rook when his king is on h7. Same idea, right? h2 and a7. Okay, how are we going to do that? The way it works is, again, you go to the central square check. Now he can go to two squares here or here, so he goes here. Now you want to give another check. You don't want to give a check from here, because if you go here, he goes here, and then you don't have queen h1 mate. Okay, so this will be inaccuracy. You still win, but it's more complex. So you go check from here, because now he can never go here. You have mate, so he has to go back to the back rank. If he goes here, you give a check. If he blocks himself, nice symmetry, checkmate. So he has to go back to g8, and now you quickly connect via this check, 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 and guess what? Win the rook. Okay? So that's the only way you can basically win. If you have to know this position where it's a Zugzwang. Okay? So remember, two ways to do this. Okay? Check. Not this way, because this is rook f6. So you have to try to go queen a8 check. This is a winning position. Same way you win, because you have to force his rook to move away. As soon as he moves away, you're going to be able to win it. Or you can go queen h5. I like this method, actually. This way it seems like very straightforward. King on f6, queen on h5, black rook on g7, king on g8. This is a Zugzwang position. He cannot do anything. Okay? So remember, you need to have a good plan to win this. Okay, any questions about rook and queen? You have to still practice this, but at least you know what you're aiming for when you do it, okay?
So you can always back him into a corner.
Yes. You'll be able to back him in a corner, but you have to know how to do the final touch. And the final touch is to reach this position, okay? You should be able to back into the corner with the use of your king and queen. But be careful, okay? Be careful of that rook idea, because I see it quite often. People think they already won and quickly play here, and then one more mistake. And this is a common way black can defend, because otherwise it would have been so easy to win this position. But this problem is always there. You know, when they check and they're ready to sacrifice their rook to win it. All right? Next position, calculation, okay? This one you need to calculate several moves. We're still working on the fortresses. White to play and draw. Which move will draw this game? You basically need to calculate 4 moves here. 4 moves here. And by the way, if black had a bishop here instead of a knight, it would have been winning easily. But here we see a position where knight is much more inferior than a bishop. Here white makes the correct move and he is winning. Because you will realize one more thing. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to think about this. If the king comes out, we need to resign. He will queen the pawn. So if somehow the king comes out, it's over. So you have to calculate. Think, calculate, because only one move will draw it. Yes?
So is it as simple as figuring out that the king has to be on a white square? Because the knight's got to move to a white square. Then he's just going to switch back and forth. Because the next knight move has got to be on a white square. So the king has to go to the white square in F1. Is it that simple or not?
Not really. You might find a way to do the squares, but here it's basically you need to calculate where his knight is going to. Because he would need to use the knight to move your king away, because you're going to make a move that blocks him, right? You know that if his king come out, you're not going to win this. So your move is obvious. There are 2 candidate moves here. You don't have like a bunch of moves. So you have only 2 moves here. So which one you go for? You basically have to be, whenever he gives you a check, you need to go to F1, the light square. And then he doesn't have a waiting move anymore, okay? So that's how it works. So your first suggestion, let's see why this doesn't work. If you go here, he comes up. You got to stay here, right, to keep him boxed in. He comes up. You go here, he goes 94. You see the scenario? Your king cannot come here. You're forced to go away, and he queens and you resign.
Right.
So
But, yeah.
So important concept to remember is because knights are always alternating, it doesn't matter what route he takes. Like he said, the next move he moves to a light square. So that'll tell you what squares he's going to be checking on.
You don't have to do the calculation.
Yeah.
Right? There's no put the knight anywhere you want. I can do it. Right? Put the knight anywhere you want. You can do it in the
No, but you have to calculate.
No, because you just
I mean, yes. So basically the concept is right. Yeah, but it's see, we're going into mathematical a little bit here. But yes, if I put the knight on a light square now, where are you gonna go?
he's got to go to the light square next, so I got to go to a light square.
Okay, so basically, I guess you have to go to the light square. You know, you have to go to the. If you see a position like this, you have to go to the color of the square where the knight is at.
I want to be checked by the knight.
Yes.
I gotta stay in F1 and F2, but I want to be checked. So I'm going to go to the square that I'm hoping to check.
Okay, so king F2.
there's no such thing as a knight waiting move.
Yeah, exactly.
So he goes here. Now here. And the problem is when he goes check, you go back to the corner. He can't make a waiting move with a knight. And he can't really do any type of triangulation with a knight to reach this position, okay? But you have to really calculate 4 moves. You have to know that concept, basically. If the knight is on the dark square, your move with the king should be on the dark square. If the knight is on a light square, so let's change that position now. So let's see the knight is here. So now, what's the move that will make a draw here?
F1.
I hope we're right. This is, yeah, I didn't know this, but now this is finding out also. Okay, king F1. Okay, so he goes here.
It doesn't matter where he starts, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So in a position like this, we have to go to the color of the knight. If your knight is on a light square, we go on the light square on F1. If it's on a dark square anywhere on the board, we go to the dark square. That's how it works. Because, yeah, this is a position, I guess, where you can see the strength, you know, the strength between a bishop and a knight. You know, this is a position where you see that strength. You know, the bishop here would have been easily winning here. Any color bishop, you give me a white square bishop, sure. King goes on F2, he goes bishop G2, resigns. Takes away the square, king G1, he queens. Okay? So let's change it to a dark square bishop. So you go king F1. Check. See, same concept. Yeah, check, you go here. With the knight, it would have been a draw, but with the bishop, he's just waiting and controlling that F2 square. So that's why you see the bishop is stronger than a knight. That's why they say sometimes bishop is worth a little bit more. 3 1/4, they say. You know, that's why don't just come and exchange your bishop for no reason. Whenever you exchange your bishop for a knight and you're going to give up 2 bishops, you must have a reason. And make sure in the end games you're appreciating more, okay, this. Okay, now the next position I have, continue on the theme of fortress. So you understand this one? Okay. White to play and white to play and draw. Can you find a way to save this game? Question is. Very tricky. Very tricky. Calculate, calculate. I don't want you to guess the move. I want you to actually find it. You must calculate 5 to 6 moves here. to make sure you have it. Because there are alternatives here you have. There are some alternatives if you do it, but you might not win.
King D2.
You mean E2?
Oh yeah, E2. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And then after he takes, and then F2.
Looks like a draw, huh?
Yep.
How about this?
And then D3. Oh right. Okay, then my other guess was H2, bishop H2.
Well, see, your idea would have worked unless I had this brilliancy. And if you had gone here, you remember this position?
Yeah,
Does this position look familiar to you?
yeah, that's what I saw.
Which position is this? The very first position. Remember, that's a fortress. You just go back and forth with the king. And he cannot really make progress here because king cannot get closer to the pawn. Okay. So unfortunately, king e2, the most natural move here, doesn't work. This makes your task a little bit easier because you don't have too many options here.
Well, you can eliminate any move of the bishop along that long diagonal because then he pushes the pawn and it's over.
Excellent. So that's out.
So that takes out of all my possible moves. That X down everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, that's an excellent. Yeah, but now, what's the way to draw this then?
So bishop H2 then.
I saw that first too. I saw the other fortress, but.
Okay, takes. Keep going. It's still not too late to make a mistake and lose this game. Not too late.
Now B2.
Absolutely, taking away squares, right? So now you want to walk. So it goes here.
F1.
F1
But if you go f1, remember my pawn is here, not on h2. That's winning position. I just come up. See, this is winning, remember?
Oh, okay. He's
Because
there.
my king is getting in. This is winning. This is only a draw if the pawn is on h2. So instead of going to f1, you need to find a way to attack the pawn so he pushes the pawn. If he pushes the pawn, then it's a draw. So the move is king f3. Now he's going to try to do something. He's going to say, take my knight. Take my knight, he's going to say. Not interested. We were interested in the pawn. Now he moves the knight on f2, we take it. So he goes here. See, if you didn't know that this is a draw, this position, you might sort of give up and try to do something else. But once now you know this concept of the knight on g4, pawn on h2, then you're going to think about these ideas and the possibilities that you have with the fortress. So I encourage you to play until the end in your games, your practice games, your tournament games. Play until the very end because you know there's always going to be some chances. Look, we saw a position where the one player had a queen versus rook, equal amount of pawns, and still couldn't win it. So there are a lot of things that you still have chances. So you have to continue fighting until the end. Only resign when it's just completely clear that you have absolutely no chances. Even if you have 1% chance, I encourage you to play it on, because you're not playing against grandmasters or professional players at the moment. So just play it on. You'll get some chances. Today's lesson was focused on fortresses, the possibilities of how to make a fortress, which fortress you can win, and which fortress you cannot break. We saw a lot of positions where it looked like the player with the material could win, but it wasn't easy. Also, you saw the idea of queen and a rook versus king and rook versus king and queen. How to make a draw in that one. That was very important for you. So remember that position where your king is on f6, queen on e8 or queen on h5, his king is on g8 or g7, and that's the fortress. That's a position where you want him to be. That's a very important position for you.
How many fortresses are there?
There are a lot of them. There are so many of them, but what you saw today, these are pretty common fortresses. There are a lot of fortresses, I would say, but this one's what you saw today. This is the ones that are likely that you can get in the tournaments.